me if I get a little glitchy and slow. Okay, we're recording. We're talking about social media and email today. This is one of those really important topics, and it's not something I put a lot out about because I want to make sure we're going to do this right. There's a lot of noise around it, so we're going to have a really focused skills training conversation. That's my goal here today. And I want you to remember as we go through this, this is designed specifically for Canadian small business owners and independent entrepreneurs. We are small scale businesses. A lot of what is out there around social media and email and content marketing is for mass marketing. We don't need that. That is a losing game that we get caught up in quite often. So what we're going to talk about here today is custom strategies just for us small scale people, which is a lot nicer to do, to be completely honest. Here's what we're going to go through. We are going to talk about how social media and email work together to support growth in us small scale businesses. These are the primary two communication channels small businesses use for good reason. They're not difficult to access and they're pretty budget friendly. So I'm going to talk about how you use them together. We're going to identify which platforms and content styles best fit your business model. All content should not be approached the same. It depends on what kind of business you are, where you want to be showing up, and how you want to be showing up. And I'm going to give you a ChatGPT prompt. I have started to really integrate ChatGPT. I have custom GPTs for all of my courses now. The way it reduces implementation time is mind-blowing. I utilized one of my own custom GPTs to help create a brand for a nonprofit I'm helping, and it took me less than 5 minutes. It was absolutely insane. So today I'm going to give you a prompt to help you get the same kind of results, because I know for us small scale business owners, we really need to be able to apply what we're learning. We're not just caught up in theory. We really need to be able to apply things. Most of you know me, but here I am, my little introduction. My name is Cheyanne. My business is CEO Marketing Consultant. I am a marketing coach and consultant, and I specialize in practical marketing for Canadian small businesses and entrepreneurs. I am a small business owner. My mother is a brick and mortar small business owner. I go 4 generations back of being a small business owner. It's in my blood, and I'm really passionate about it. I've worked with over 200 small business owners and nonprofits over the last 6 years. I've helped grow a local gym. I started with them 6 years ago doing social media. We've grown from 5K a month in revenue. We're looking at 30K a month as our next target goal. We're sitting between 27, 29K. And I'm actually going to give you some behind the scenes metrics of this business so you can understand that good social media is not about the size of the audience. It's about the quality of your content, which is what we're really going to be diving into today. Before we get into how to do it, I want us to understand if you've tried social media and it's felt icky, or it just feels like it's not working, it's probably because you've taken the wrong approach, which happens quite often for us small scale business owners. And because we are usually hustling, we're usually bootstrapping or DIY, we might have a small team. We are really focused on making sure we fill up those pipelines, that we're bringing in the leads and we're bringing in the sales that we need. So quite often when we get to a point where we're like, okay, I'm going to use social media, our primary focus is how do I use it as a selling tool? We really come at it with that energy, but what we want to do instead is to reorient to it as a connection tool. Most of us small business owners and entrepreneurs, I know we tend to prefer being able to have conversations in person, to be able to go out directly to our community or industry. We just feel like it's more effective. We're able to be more genuine. We're able to be more authentic. What I want you to understand is all that happens online is that members of your community or your industry, they have an online conversation going. It's just joining into a conversation that's online. You don't want to use it as a digital billboard. That's like walking into a networking room and shaking someone's hand for the first time and immediately going into your pitch and trying to tell them what you have to offer them. We don't want to do that in person, and we don't want to do that online either. These are the same people that you interact with when you go out to your community or you engage with your industry. So with social media, I really want you to see that what it is, it's you're joining in a public conversation. It's not a digital billboard. And what happens when you start contributing to this conversation is you're going to start building up trust. It's the exact same approach as if you're regularly going out to some kind of community event or business event and you see the same person and you have little snippets of conversation. Someone else tells you about them. You get to know each other. They get to know what you do. And then eventually they reach out and say, hey, I really do. I'm ready to get some help with this. Can we have a chat? That is the exact same approach you want to take when it comes to social media. We can still use it as a sales channel, and I'm going to show you how to do that, but we want to shift our primary focus into contributing to the conversation. When I talk about social media and online in general, there's a lot of noise around how you have to chase reach and algorithm and trends, and we all hate it. This is where it starts to feel very, very icky. What social media actually is a place where the majority of users are not putting out content. On almost every channel, it breaks down to this ratio. 80% of people on social media are just watching and listening and deciding. They're not posting. Quite often, they're not commenting and they're not engaging. So your goal is not to get comments and reach and engagement. Your goal is to connect with these people. Only about 20% of social medias are consistently posting, which means it becomes a really great opportunity for us to show up as a contributor to social media because we still have a dominant amount of people that are the audience. So it becomes a really, really effective visibility channel for us if we are consistently participating. This is why you hear a lot about consistency in social media. It's just like showing up in your community or your industry. The more consistent you are, the more effective it is. And again, we are entering a conversation. We're not launching a pitch. This is one of the most common missteps I see when we move into social media. And just like people, if someone immediately starts to pitch to you in person, you get an aversion. People get the same online because you're definitely there to extract. You're looking for value for yourself, and that's not going to help build trust. We're going to go really far into what it looks like to build trust for each type of business, but just know it's not launching a pitch. What does happen when we start to show up to contribute to the conversation is you're going to start to build awareness, credibility, and connection. The exact same way as when you show up to networking events or you're in a regular series of vendor fairs. That consistency helps build up pieces that you cannot purchase, that you could not convince people to trust you. It's something that's built up very organically. So people get to know who you are, how you think, and what you offer. And over time, the trust grows, and that trust leads to sales. It leads to people reaching out to have a conversation, or it leads to people showing up in your e-commerce or your brick and mortar store. It's just like when someone finally reaches out after seeing you at a bunch of events saying, hey, I need help with this. Can we have a conversation around that? They take the action themselves. We will still use what I call sales posts, which I'm going to break it down for you. We'll still use that to help prompt people. But this is where you build up an audience. In marketing terms, an audience is one of the biggest assets we can have because it allows us to consistently pull people forward so that we're never in that boom and boost cycle where we're like boom and bust cycle rather, where we've had a huge influx because we did some in-person events and then suddenly it's dead. This is what social media helps us develop past in terms of our business. So again, we hear a lot about reach and a lot about algorithms and trends and hooks and all of these things to go viral. And when we talk about what you're really competing with online, you are not talking about competing with mass marketing. That works really well for influencer style businesses or really large corporations. They want to lean into reach and trends because scale is the name of their game. That is what they're operating with their business model and with their target market. Small scale businesses like us, we tend to want to work with people who are intentional about who they're working with. They care about where they're shopping. They care about who they contract with. They're much more intentional. And those type of people are going to really want values and relationships. So when we talk about small scale marketing, what we really want to lean on is showcasing our values and building relationships. We don't want to worry about the trends. So our edge, what we actually want to compete with, is building trust, consistency, and relevance to our audience. So the nice thing is you don't have to point and dance, you don't have to chase the algorithm, and you don't have to chase trends, but we do want to approach this in a very intentional, strategic way. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So, what you're really trying to do, who you're really trying to reach, is conscious consumers. Everybody here and everyone watching the replay, I am willing to bet you, well, I know you're online because you're on here with me. You probably have social media, you've got an inbox, but I bet even though we might do a little bit of vacant scrolling, for the most part, you probably try to be very intentional with what kind of media you're consuming, where you're putting your time, probably where you shop, where you invest your money. That is a group of our society and a group of our target market called conscious consumers. Those are the people who align with us small scale businesses because they like supporting small, they like supporting local, and they're looking for quality back for their investment. We are not looking to connect to everybody online. We're looking to connect to conscious consumers. And they are not looking for trends. They're looking for businesses they can trust. They're not the type to get caught up in you using the latest sound that's trending or really flashy pieces, but they are the type who you will earn their purchasing by showing up and building trust. So that becomes your job. Your job is no longer to chase trends. Your job is to build trust with an audience that understands what you're doing and they want to hear from you because they're interested in the ways you can help them. So I'm going to pull up some metrics from my gym client I was telling you about because I want you to see that it really has nothing to do with the size of the audience. My gym, we've been working together for 6 years. This is our Instagram audience. I took this a couple of days ago. It's just over 1,000 people. It is a very modest size Instagram audience. This audience supports a business that is making $28K a month on minimum. You do not need a huge audience. We also have a Facebook audience that's about 1,600. It was there before I started. This is a relatively new audience. But I want you to see the impact completely organic social media can have. These are our metrics for the last year using nothing but organic social media strategy. Posting, I'm going to tell you about it, the 3 posts a week framework. We have reached over 104K views. That's that many impressions, that many times people have seen our content. And we have reached over 4.5K different people in our area. This is a hyper targeted audience. These are people only in the city that my gym is in and within the closest neighborhoods. This is completely free. This is how strong this type of social media can be, where it is supporting a business that brings in almost 30K a month. You do not need a huge audience. It's not about the size of the audience. It's about the quality of your content. So in order to know what type of content you need for your business, I'm going to break it down for you. One of the biggest reasons us Canadian small businesses tend to struggle is we don't develop market fit. We're going to develop it right here today by understanding which kind of business you are and what kind of job your market is looking to hire for. There's a concept in marketing called jobs being done. And what's happening is that your market is out there in their lives and they have things that they want to invest in. They have things they need to have done for them. And they are looking for businesses that they can hire for these jobs. Our marketing is our resume. So we want to show up in a way that shows them that we are a fit for this kind of job. This is how we create market fit. Everyday businesses are consumer staples. I'm going to break each one of these down and I want you to be able to self-identify because after I go through this, I'm going to go through the strategies for each. An everyday business is a consumer staple. It's something that people need and use regularly. An experience-based business is a consumer discretionary. You're giving them something that allows them to live out their lifestyle. It creates memories. An expertise-based business is a professional service. You help them do something that they can't get done on their own. Those are the 3 main types of businesses us small-scale businesses are going to be. You will find there is overlaps. Really smart businesses, you have some kind of revenue channel for each, but most of us will have one dominant one, and you want to get really clear on that for yourself so that your marketing is a good resume, so that someone who's looking for an expert isn't getting confused why you feel like an everyday business. They see that your resume that you're putting out there makes them a fit for what they're looking for. So each one of these, everyday, experience, and expertise, they're going to fit different content styles and content channels. I'm gonna outline it all for you. I've done all of the legwork. This is the beauty of working with as many small businesses as I have, is that I can see the big frameworks behind it so that you all don't need to learn marketing from the base up. I can give you just what you need to know. You're going to self-identify. I'm going to go through each one of these individually. Get a sense of which one you are. Don't get overwhelmed by it and be like, well, I have a little of this, a little of this. Your clarity is what's going to create clarity for your market. It's like if your resume is all over the place, it makes you a weaker candidate. Whereas if you customize it and you put it front and center to what you have to offer for what they're looking for, you're a stronger hire. You can always adjust. Business is never static. As we always know, we're always flowing with it. You can move from one to the other. My gym, we started as an everyday business. We were bare bones. The client was building up what was available. So it was everyday, practical, just really consistent information. We're now moving into an experience-based business. We're opening up a day spa. We're opening up a restaurant, a lounge with it. So now it's becoming an experience and a destination. So the way I'm going to market will shift as well. So you're not locked in, but you do want to identify currently what relationship are you building with your market. So for us, everyday businesses, this tends to be brick and mortar. What we are doing is we are selling things that people need and use regularly. We want to fold ourselves into their everyday routines. Examples are things like food retail, coffee shops, plumbers, things that are consumer staples, which some of these terms are reminiscent of about 4 or 5 years ago, where we had different people arguing about what was a essential and what wasn't. I have a tea shop customer who she got really riled up because she said, tea is an essential. I should not be a discretionary. So consumer staples are something people are going to fold into their everyday habits. Experience-based businesses are things that make life better, memorable, or meaningful. These are really about lifestyle type of offers that we have to bring to people. Examples can be something like an online yoga class, a golf club, events, which can be local or online. It does not matter if you are predominantly an online business or an in-person business, these categories apply. And for expertise-based businesses, this is what I am. This is where you offer specialized knowledge or skill that people can't do themselves. Examples are going to be designers, accountants, and consultants. So each one of these businesses are going to be hired to do a different job in a consumer's life. Most consumers will be hiring for all of these type of jobs, depending on what they're focused on. But what they want to see on the resume and the marketing of a business is going to be different depending on what kind of job they're hiring you for. This is why I work with a lot of people in expertise. And when someone tells them they're supposed to be posting constantly on Instagram because that's the way to grow, they're like, please don't make me do that. I am not going to make you do that because it wouldn't make any sense. If you were trying to position yourself as an expert who can help someone solve, let's say, a really intricate business problem, but then you're constantly on social media 2 or 3 times a day doing dances and trends, it's going to be incongruent. You are not going to feel like the right hire for that job. This is why marketing needs to be approached based on which kind of business you are. So let's get into the marketing strategy. This is specifically for our content. Social media and email are considered content marketing. It's stuff we're putting out there. It's not us directly. It is our content doing the relationship building for us. So us everyday businesses, us. I'm about to start an everyday business, which is why I say that. So the everyday businesses, our content strategy comes down to consistent information. You really want to ingrain yourself into the everyday life of the audience that you're trying to connect to. I always say you want to market how you sell. So if you're selling something that is an everyday staple like bread, your marketing should match that same kind of relationship, which means you want to be steadily consistent and steadily present in the social media world of your community. So you want to be present, you want to show what you have to offer, you want to answer questions, and you want to build routine recognition. These are not the type where you need to go hardcore and you need to build really intricate videos or anything intricate or in-depth. You don't want a mile-long post. This is a simple popping up saying, hey, today is baguette day. Baguettes are available on Thursday. Or, ooh, here's our new product launch. Here's something new in store. Here's our new staff, say hi. It's very bite-sized pieces of information that are very digestible, but it's about consistently being part of the conversation of your community online. Really, really simple stuff, but this one does have a high frequency. For us experience-based businesses, you are going to focus on emotional storytelling. Experience-based businesses are all about lifestyles and values. And the way you get hired for that job is you showcase it through emotional storytelling. You really want to help people feel the experience. You want to share behind the scenes, and you can lean into this personally because high chances are, if you have an experience-based business, you are also part of a member of that lifestyle group. So you can really lean into helping people connect to you in that way. For us expertise-based businesses, we have to focus on building trust and authority. Our content is always about building trust and authority, especially because there is a lot of gurus who will sell you anything. Expertise businesses suffer for this much more than the other two. We have all been burnt by buying courses or paying for advice that ended up being better marketing than delivery. So trust is a really important piece. We live in a post-trust economy. For us expertise-based businesses, we can use our marketing to build legitimate trust. And the way we're going to do this is you want to share your knowledge, you want to provide insight, and you want to position yourself as a credible expert. So many people I work with have these like absolutely incredible backgrounds in work or education and professional credentials, but then they're never sharing that online. So one of the most important pieces is making sure your online audience is getting to know the legitimate credibility you have as an expert. So those are our three main strategies: everyday businesses, consistent information, little drops of information so you're consistently part of the online conversation. You don't have to go intense. You don't have to overproduce anything, just little bite-sized pieces. Experience-based businesses, you want to show the emotional story behind being part of your community, taking part in your events. It can still be a product or service. If you're offering like really high-end homewares, you're not going to focus on the product. You're going to focus on that story of cooking in your kitchen with this really beautiful set of knives or whatever it is. So it's always the emotional storytelling for the experience-based businesses. And expertise-based businesses, you want to show up and share insights and share knowledge so that the audience gets a firsthand view of the expertise that you have, and they get to receive the value from that so that when they decide to move further along, it makes sense for them. Okay, take a little drink. Now that we have a sense of which style of business we are and which content strategy we want to use, we're going to talk about the channels. This is where we get very quickly confused and overwhelmed because there are a lot of options. The beautiful thing about being a small scale business is that we want to do small scale marketing. We do not need to bring in hundreds of thousands of people every year. We need a much smaller lead and customer base, which means our marketing can be much smaller scale. It also is important to recognize the realistic abilities of yourself or your team to produce your marketing, which means if it's just you or you just have a small team, you cannot be all over the place. You won't do anything well. So in general, I always tell people you want to pick one channel and get good at it, get it working, get it systemized, get it to the point where you're consistent with it before you expand. Expansion is always possible, but businesses are only going to succeed when these systems get put into place. So for everyday businesses, especially brick and mortars, anyone who's selling something you want people to stop in consistently to grab and to use, Meta is going to be your key piece. Meta is Instagram and Facebook. They are joined through Meta Business Suite. You should never post to just one. If you have a Facebook page, get an Instagram page. If you have an Instagram page, get a Facebook page and connect them via Meta, because you can instantly post to both just by checking a box. Doubles your exposure for no more work for you other than checking that box. So for everyday businesses, definitely show up on Meta, use that as your primary channel. The other two pieces you want to start getting in place is your Google My Business. That is absolutely key, especially for anyone that is location-based or you have a service area that is geographically bound. And honestly, for all of us small-scale businesses, as you're developing, I always suggest focus on your local community first. Just let somebody in. Google My Business, you want to optimize your profile. You want to make sure all of the information is put in there. You're hitting keywords in your description. And the way you format your address, your phone number, your email, keep that consistent across everything you put online. That's how the spider crawls through and validates. You want the same formatting on your Google My Business, on your website, on your Facebook page, on your Instagram, everything formatted the same. The other trick for Google My Business is while you're regularly posting to Facebook and Instagram, take one of those posts a week and post it to your Google My Business. Most people don't realize you can even do that. It keeps you higher in the search rankings because your Google My Business is more active. Doesn't take much more time. You're already going to have posts for Facebook and Instagram, which I'm going to help you get to at the end of this. Add it to your Google My Business. The other key piece for us everyday businesses or anybody that is location based, get into your local Facebook groups. Those community groups are an incredible way to connect to conscious consumers. They're usually community supporters, and the amount of reach and awareness that you can generate by being present in them. They usually are very open to having businesses come in and talk about if they're opening, if they're launching something new, if they've got a special going on or an event. Don't only show up to promote yourself, engage in the conversation as well, but do not neglect your local community Facebook groups. They are an absolute goldmine. So those are our everyday businesses. They tend to be our brick and mortar, but this also applies to experience and expertise if you are location based. Those are the really key ways to get in and to make sure that you're generating local awareness is Google My Business and your local Facebook groups. For our experience-based businesses that are more about a lifestyle and values, you're still going to want to use Meta. Remember, they're connected, so it's going to go to both, but lean more into the Instagram style. Instagram is a lifestyle channel, so the aesthetics of it, the reels, the stories, the format of Instagram is much more in alignment for experience-based businesses. It's meant to share the lifestyle, which is why we call it an influencer. That's kind of where the influencer thing started, was modeling a lifestyle. But we can use it as small scale businesses. You don't have to perfect anything, but lean into the Instagram energy and the Instagram formats. It will still go to Facebook. They're slowly merging into one giant conglomerate anyways, but focus more on Instagram for experience-based businesses. Expertise-based businesses, it depends if you are consumer facing or business or organizational facing. If you are serving consumers or what I call little b, small businesses, people who are just starting out, they're most likely not on LinkedIn. So you also want to lean into Meta, Facebook and Instagram. If you are focused on business solutions or organizational solutions, get on LinkedIn. It is an absolutely incredible platform right now. It's really growing and finding its own in the last couple of years. It's getting much more energized. So this is essentially all you need to focus on until you have these really systemized and you're really consistently showing up. Don't worry about expanding. There's lots of other options, but as we expand our content, we increase our production needs. Something like YouTube or a podcast, you're not now talking a bit of production work. And all of those are best done when they're supported by this core content channel. So Meta, for most of us, Meta is going to be a fit. LinkedIn, if you're working with businesses and organizations, and then get your Google My Business and your local Facebook groups if you're location based. That's all. Stay focused. Don't get distracted. Don't let the shiny objects pull you off course. Spend a little bit of time, get these down pat, and then once they're working well, then you expand to the next one. Okay, we're going to bring email in now. We've done a lot of focus on social because it is our dominant communication channel. I think it's like 98% of us small businesses are using social media for good reason. Like I showed you earlier with the gym, you can create really good business results out of completely organic social media. Anyone who's telling you social media is dead, they're just unhappy because the amount have gone down, especially for mass marketers. In a really interesting way, what's happening with the platforms is they're actually shifting the algorithm to support small content makers because the really large people who are gaming it and working really well with the trends and the reach, we're starting to dominate. So it's actually in our favor. And that's why I wanted to show you those metrics so you can see completely organically you can get results. So don't dismiss it. The pain point of social, though, for anyone who was paying attention earlier this year when TikTok went down for, I think it was like 24 hours, the sheer panic that created in the content creators who are using it as their business platform. You may have heard the term, it's building on rented land. This is really common in the marketing world because social media has a lot of vulnerabilities built into it. When they decide to change the algorithm, your access to your audience can shift substantially, where you can suddenly overnight lose a post that goes out to 20%, suddenly is now only going out to 4 or 5%. You can lose access to it. You can get blocked out of it. And there's no real people behind Meta. You're just talking to bots. So sometimes even getting access brought back can be difficult. And if a platform full out goes down, you have no rights to your audience. You have now lost that asset of an audience. So those vulnerabilities are balanced out with the fact that it's public. There is no other channel where so many people in our community or industry are likely to be that we can get access to them for free. It's a great visibility tool, but we don't want to stop at social. We want in business development, it's really important to have one key focus, get the systems built, consistently do it before you move on to the next. So you start with social, but then to balance out that vulnerability of building on rented land, we want to move to email. Email is different in that you will have a little bit of a cost. You'll have to pay for an email service provider. If you have, I think Wix and a couple of the other website platforms have built-in email. MailChimp at its lowest tier is about $30 a month. So there is a little bit of an overhead, but it's very manageable. The beauty of email is now your audience becomes an owned audience. You no longer have that vulnerability of having them taken away. As long as they sign up to join your email list and they give you permission, you now own their email. You can always get in contact with them, which is why it's an important second step to bring in. It also is more of a private conversation. So social is like going out to networking events and having some chit chats with people, getting to know them. Email is like inviting someone specifically out to sit down and have coffee with you. It's a more private conversation, and where social media allows you to build visibility, email allows you to build a lot of trust. This is why, as I see Amy. Oh, okay, I'll get to the chat in a second. This is why you want to couple them together, start with social, and then move on to email. One draws attention, the other builds depth. And for those of us who are looking to create a connection with conscious consumers, which is all of us, we need to make sure that we're building depth. But the other piece is it is quite easy to just like jump in and start an email list, and then you don't know what to post on it, and you don't know how to make sure you're providing value. One of the ways we figure that out is by testing with social. Social is much more agile. You can put stuff out. You'll start to find what people respond to and what resonates. And then that gives you a stronger start, a stronger foundation to your email, because you already have a sense of what kind of content they're going to respond to. It's much harder to test out emails, and then your open rate gets really low, and then you don't have people aren't looking for your email to open. So I really strongly suggest you hold off on email till you feel like you understand what your audience is looking for. Okay. These are the steps to building your audience. This is a sequence that will happen regardless of which kind of business you have. And I'm going to give little examples for each so you can understand from the audience point of view how this turns into sales. I know we all love people, but we're all business owners. So at the end of the day, we need those pipelines filled. If we're going to take on marketing, the point of marketing is to generate business goals. Most of us, our primary business goal is sales. So I'm going to walk you through this. The first step, like I've been saying, is contributing to the conversation. And I'm going to break down what that looks like in really logical terms after this. So step one, we start contributing to the conversation. We're posting on social. Step two, the right fit people are going to connect with our content. The people who it resonates with, they're going to go, oh yeah, this looks like for people like me. Step three, the more this happens, you start to build an audience of people who get to know you and they get to know what you offer. So they start to see you as a solution or a potential hire for whatever job they have coming up in their life. And then step four, that interest that they have turns to action. One of the biggest concepts that we should understand as entrepreneurs is sales cycles. They're at any given point in time, our target market, a portion of them are in a sales cycle, and it is a very, very, very tiny portion. At the rest of them are they're off of the sales cycle, but they will eventually come into a sales cycle. When we are able to build a relationship with them before they get in there, Instead of fighting for them when they're in a sales cycle with everybody else that's fighting, we are actually the default solution for them. So they come to us. This is what marketing is. Marketing draws people in. Sales is you going out and having to intentionally persuade them when they're in the middle of a sales cycle. Marketing, instead, you reach them before that and they come into you when they enter the sales cycle. So an example of this for an everyday business, I use these guys a lot. I have a deli and bakery that I love that they're down the road from me, the Trenton Deli and Bakery. Step one, they are consistently putting out posts. They have lovely product shots. They showcase the personality of the business. They showcase the business owners. They let me know that Thursday is baguette day. Step two, people connect to the content. I'm watching it. I see them pop up. I love the look of their fresh baked goods. I have a culinary background, so I really love really high quality goods. Step three, I become someone in their audience who sees them as a solution. So now my brain is planning out my meal plan for the week, and I'm going to make lasagna and I want garlic bread. My brain now goes, oh, that's right. They do baguettes on Thursday. I want a baguette and I want that kind of baguette for my garlic bread. So I will make sure I stop by Thursday morning and get that baguette. And then step four, that interest turns to action. I show up there Thursday and I purchase a baguette because they've brought me through these pieces just by contributing to the conversation online consistently. For someone like an experience-based business, this is what I use. I'm consistently online and I offer social media and deeper levels of content. I contribute to the conversation around small business marketing. People who are the right fit for me, who don't want to market in a way that feels really icky and inauthentic and is really overwhelming, they connect to what I'm saying. And then they become part of an audience who sees me as their marketing person. If they have a marketing thing, they first go to see if I have something to offer that will help them through it. And then if I launch a course or I open up my one-on-one, then their interest turns to action. So this is the impact that social media can have on us. A lot of it actually happens behind the scenes. This is one of the social media marketers get a little wound up about. Everyone wants to have attribution. How do you tell me that social media post has created that sale? A lot of it is nuanced and it's not going to be something that you can track with clicks. I'm going to tell you about Jade in a minute. It's a really key example. But this is what's happening when you put out the right kind of content. And now I'm going to tell you what the right kind of content for every type of business is. If you want to make sure your content is going to have an impact on your audience and your business, you need to make sure it hits three key traits. We live in a attention economy. We are all inundated with massive amounts of marketing messages that are hitting us constantly. So is your target market. We are not entitled to attention. We need to earn it. If you want to use social media as part of your business and part of your marketing, what you put in is going to be what you get out. It is, as I'm showing you, it's very viable. It does work, but we can't just throw anything out there and then wonder why we didn't get any results. So if you are serious about using it, you also want to be serious about making sure every piece of content you put out hits these three key traits. It needs to be attuned, it needs to be valuable, and it needs to be of quality. This is what it takes for small scale content to be impactful. When I say attuned, I mean it needs to be anchored into your audience's values, perspectives, and needs. This is one of those switching from being the business owner to putting on your CMO hat. As a chief marketing officer, you understand your marketing is about your audience, not about your business. This is one of the very common missteps. Jade made this. I'm going to talk to you about her in a second. But when you put out a post, it is not about you and it's not about your business. It is attuned to your audience's values, perspectives, and needs. It should be valuable. There are three main types of value we can offer in our content. This is social media or email, information, inspiration, or entertainment. A lot of the social media conversation is based around entertainment. That's mass marketing because the channels are trying to position their platforms rather, are trying to position themselves as an entertainment business. That's their model. So they're pushing people to create entertaining content. And for the younger generations, it's worked. Most of them consume social media as entertainment rather than, cable television. But for us, the beautiful thing is just because that's what the platforms want, doesn't mean we have to get up there and try to be super entertaining. We don't have to tap into that. We can tap into another type of value. We can tap into information or inspiration. And I find most people I work with, this is much more what they're leaning into. Younger brands and younger business owners, you can bring in the entertainment if you want, or if you just have that kind of personality, you can definitely lean into that. But every single piece of content you put out, you want to look at it and say, what value does this give my audience? Does it provide them with information? Does it provide them with inspiration? Or does it provide them with entertainment? And the third piece is quality. Your content, people are going to use it to get a sense of how it is to work with your business. So if you are throwing content out there without being intentional, that's going to reflect on their assumption behind how you work with your products or services. The other thing is the feed is busy. It is noisy. If we want to help people get a chance to connect to our business, we want to make sure what we're putting out there is quality. It does not mean it has to be super high budget. Quite often, depending on what you're putting out there, a cell phone selfie is actually going to give more of an impact than something highly produced. But you want to get to know the channels and what works for them. The other piece I always tell businesses, if you are product based, as soon as you have the budget, get product photography. You can use that over and over and over again, and it elevates the sense of your business. If you are service based, get brand photography, get a couple of good headshots and some shots of you in action. It is a one-time investment, and then it sits in on your computer as a folder that you can pull forward consistently. Really important that you understand, and part of this will be a learning process. As you show up, you're going to learn, which is another reason why I say focus on one channel. If it's you doing it or a team member, there is going to be a learning curve, and you're going to have to figure out what performs well on that channel and how you show up in a quality way on that channel, but it's well worth it. I'm going to tell you why it's worth it here in a second. So Jade is an expertise style business. She is an emotional intelligence consulting. We were working together for about 6 months when she landed her biggest contract. Before that, she has a LinkedIn audience of about 2K, really well-credentialed expert, absolutely incredible professional. She has a really great presence, but she wasn't getting what she wanted out of her LinkedIn. So when we started working together, she realized what was off, and she goes, I was way off in how I showed up for my audience. Instead of dwelling, I stayed open and followed Cheyanne's guidance. She's so sweet. Realigning my message led to my biggest client ever, thanks to powerful, unsolicited referrals from my network. Getting attuned to my audience has been pure gold for my visibility. What happened was Jade was consistently putting out attuned content, quality. It was providing information value. She was creating it with a little video program that she uses. And even though she didn't see a huge uptick in the engagement or the comments, she was having private conversations with people who were telling her, oh yeah, I saw that post you put out last week. That's really, really good. So she was going through that 4-step process with people in her audience who weren't giving her any tangible signs of it. And then one of the members in her audience that had been consistently absorbing her content had an organization ask if they had anyone they could refer them to for emotional intelligence facilitation. And the first person that came to mind was Jade. So she sent them to Jade. Jade had a conversation with them, and she landed a $54,000 contract with them because of her LinkedIn. Even though she only has about 2K people on there, she wasn't seeing a huge amount of engagement. It's not about the size of the audience or the amount of reactions or engagement. It's about the quality of the content for small scale businesses like ours. Okay, we're getting to the end of this, which is really fun. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions I want to get into. So when we bring it all together, you know what kind of business you are. If you're an everyday business, you want to look at giving your audience consistent information. If you're an experience-based business, you want to be doing emotional storytelling. And if you are an expertise-based business, you want to be building trust and authority. You have a sense of which kind of channels you want to be on. Meta, definitely if you're working with consumers. LinkedIn, if you're working with businesses or organizations. And if you are a location-based business, tap into your Google My Business and your Facebook groups. Now, when we talk about how do we actually post, Like I said, I started 6 years ago with my gym client, and this is the framework I built with them. And then I tested with dozens and dozens of other social media pages that I used to run. It is a very simple framework for determining your content calendar. Take every week of the month and divide every week into 3 posts. You want to do a give, ask cadence. So when I say give, what I mean is you're providing one of those type of value, information, inspiration, education. You are solely contributing in a way that is attuned and has quality to your audience. You are not asking for anything. You are not putting a CTA. There is nothing about you here. You are just contributing to the conversation. And then once a week, we put up our little commercial, which is our ask. This is where you do use a CTA. In an ideal world, we all have one primary offer we're focused on. But if just in general you're asking people to have a conversation with you, this is where you include a link, or you invite them to look at your online store, or you invite them to come down to the brick and mortar. You invite them to send you a DM. That is your ask post once a week. If you want to post more frequently, definitely do that. Try to maintain this ratio. You want the association to be that you are there to contribute to the conversation. It is completely fine to also be laying down an ask. Once you build up an audience of people who are interested in what you have to say and perceive value, that ask also becomes another form of giving, because they're looking for a way to engage more. What you don't want to do is show up and only ask, which is what happens a lot of the time with us. I do not recommend going lower than 3 posts a week. If social media and email are going to be a primary driver for you in your marketing, you want to commit to at least 3 posts a week. Does not have to be as hard as it seems. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about building what I call maintenance marketing. With social media, one of the hardest parts is that it is consistent. So for us small businesses, when life gets busy, either we have a really great sales cycle and there's so much delivery we're focused on, or we're in business development, or personal life hits, we want to have a set of content that is already done up, sitting on our computer, that we can pull out and schedule. It's called evergreen content, so it's always relevant. That's your maintenance marketing. So one of the things I really want to make sure is when you go forward and you decide, I'm going to use the give, ask framework, you don't use it for just a couple of weeks and then get tapped out and burnt out because it's taking up too much time, or you get busy somewhere else. You're going to create a bundle of content that you can consistently reuse. Do not worry about putting the same thing out, because a small piece of your audience is going to see it. And just like commercials, people don't mind seeing it again. They're not going to be aggravated that it came across their feed again. It's not as much of a concern to anybody else other than us. We worry about it, but you really want to cross-utilize your content. You want to be redoing it. You don't want to get caught up in the hamster wheel of constantly having to produce new content. As you develop and you get that core bundle, when you have a really good section in your business where you can engage more, then you can put fresh stuff out. But you always want to have that maintenance marketing. For newsletters, these are a more advanced stage. You have to get to know your business and what you are trying to achieve with the email. So email falls into primarily 2 approaches: newsletters and lead magnets. Newsletters are something you send out consistently. It's a lot like social. General approaches are once a week, once a month, or once a quarter. Once a quarter works really well for nonprofits. It's where you have key stakeholders you want to stay connected with, but you don't need to be really building solid relationships with them. Once a week works really well if you have a highly engaged community and you're really trying to stay top of mind. Once a month is somewhere in the middle. It really depends on what you're looking for from your marketing. Tends to work better with people who are, newsletters are good for consumer facing. Lead magnets tend to be better for the expertise businesses. What they are is that you create something of value and people will sign up and give you their email to be able to receive this thing of value. It can be mini training. I do not recommend anyone put a PDF together. Nobody downloads PDFs anymore. We want to deliver it in a different format. But what we do with the lead magnet is whatever the core problem is we help people solve, we think upstream and we think, what kind of smaller problem are they going to come up against at the beginning of this journey? And then you create a lead magnet that solves that smaller problem for them. They get that when they sign up to the email list. And then you have a sequence of 2 to 3 follow-up emails that nurtures them and invites them to solve their bigger problem with you if they should choose to. So newsletters are good for regular relationship building, and lead magnets are good for high value entry points and nurturing for expertise-based businesses. And to finish it off, before we open up to Q&A, I'm going to give you a prompt. I'm going to send this out in the email, so you don't need to worry about downloading it or trying to write it out right now. If you are not using ChatGPT, this is me now telling you as a marketing coach and consultant, start using ChatGPT. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm building custom GPTs, plugging in all of my frameworks to really shorten up implementation, because that is one of our biggest barriers. It's hard to find the time to implement. And I used it to create a brand strategy, a very simple brand strategy for a nonprofit. It took me all of 3 to 5 minutes. It was absolutely incredible, the level it can create for us. It takes time to learn, but start to fold it into your marketing approach. I have it folded into all of my courses now, because it is the way that us small business owners are going to be able to do our marketing in a way that's manageable for us. So this is going to be your prompt. My business sells, list your main product or service. 2, list your target market. Put in as much detail as you want. ChatGPT can handle verbal ramblings. You don't need to worry about being super precise, just like brain dump into it. And then you're going to say what topics would speak to their values, challenges, and goals. So this makes sure it's attuned while offering, and then decide on the type of value you want to offer: inspiration, education, or entertainment. And then say, give me 30 topics, please. It's going to spit out 30. Usually about 15 to 20 will be worth pursuing. And then I want you to go through each of those, and you can ask ChatGPT to help you write the copy for it. So you can pick out the ones that you like, just brain dump on them, bring it into a Google Doc, brain dump your unique perspective, because the thing with AI is we want to extract our unique perspective and layer it on top, and then feed it back to it and ask it to write engaging copy for your social media. You can tell it which channel, and you will have probably 15 to 20 posts ready to go. And then all you need to do is make a simple graphic or hop on your photo reel, your photo feeds, and grab one that's relevant. And you now have a bundle of content that's going to be attuned to your audience and provide a lot of value. And you'll be able to save those. And anytime that you are like, I am not coming up with any ideas, you'll be able to draw from that and put it out on your social and keep it active. Okay, I'm going to hop onto the chat in a second. For anybody else who is like, you like this style of teaching and you're really focused on your social media and email, I have a course I'm about to launch. I'm going to grab the registration page for anybody that wants it, and then I'm going to check out the chat, and we are going to have some Q&A. Where is my chat? There's my chat. Okay. Okay, here is our link. Let me just close down my app so that we don't have to see that. Here we go. So get any questions ready that you have. I'm going to close this. Close my current app. I'm going to unspotlight myself. There we go. Okay, beautiful. Okay, let me go through the chat, and then if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we'll get to it. Amy, you guys use Constant Contact. Yeah. MailChimp is, I find, really good for starter businesses. It's much simpler. Constant Contact, I find people get a little overwhelmed with, but they're really great for larger organizations. It's always hard to know if people are even bothering to read their email. You can track the metrics and the analytics of emails. So you can tell if people are reading that and if they're clicking. But this is why I say you always want to start with social, because you have to know your audience and what they value looking at. Do we go to a website for ChatGPT or put these questions into Google search? So you want to look up ChatGPT. I will find the actual link for it. I'm always on it. It is a browser piece that is always open in my browser tabs. Okay, here we go. There is ChatGPT. I'm glad you appreciate it, Jennifer. Okay, any questions? Anybody have any questions they want to ask specific around social media or email? Good length for words for social media posts, and alternatively an email. This is really helpful. Oh, I'm glad you liked that. Social media posts are going to be determined on which type of business you are. That's why it's important to understand those types of businesses. For an everyday business, you don't want to go too deep. It's short, bite size. An experience-based business, you want to tell the story and tap into the emotions. So whatever you need for that, video tends to work better, but you can definitely do that through words. Expertise style business, whatever you need to provide the knowledge and education and the insights that you're sharing. In general, we do want to keep things short. People have very little attention spans, and it's asking a lot for someone to read. I would say on social media, you don't want to go post-wise more than probably in the copy, the written copy, 8 to 10 sentences. You also want to pay attention to the formatting. Visually, when you look at that, it should be easy to read. A big piece that I see people do is they just chunk it all up and they don't, it's just one block of text and nobody wants to read that. That's part of the quality. Email, again, it's going to depend. I have nonprofit who send out emails quarterly and they are long because there's a lot of information that they're sharing, but they're sharing with people who are donors, they're really engaged stakeholders. They're also from a highly educated market and they tend to be older, so they don't mind long content. I send out an email. I keep it pretty short. It's a weekly one. I don't know what the word count is, but I keep mine pretty concise. So there is no generic. Yes, Michelle, my presentation is on Prezi. There's no generic one size fits all word advice. In general, social media is short. You want it bite size, but as long as you're delivering those values that you need to deliver and you have that market fit. People always talk about SEO on social media. Can you explain this a bit? Oh, yeah, that's a great one. So the new search engines is our social media. The Google algorithm and the Google Spider is actually crawling through all of your social media to have an indication of what makes you relevant to which audience. Social media is now doing the same. It's much less about hashtags and it's much more about keywords in your copy. So this is something we cover in the course, but when you make your ChatGPT prompt to help you write your content, you will have a list of keywords. In general, you want to include your location and your primary product or service. If you make sure that's included in all of your post copy, it will start hitting the right keywords and the algorithm will get trained to know that that's where you're associated with. How do you post to Google My Business? When you go into your Google My Business profile in the back end of it, there's a post option. There should be right there. You should be able to just post. You can also do promos. There's quite a bit to Google My Business that we're underappreciating. Tis. When you're talking about give, ask, you mentioned CTA. Not sure what that is. Oh, CTA is a call to action. Really common marketing term. Usually people tell you, put it out on all of your posts. Don't do that. I'll come over and like give you the opposite of a gold star if you do that. CTAs are something that we want to use very intentionally and sparingly because we're building relationships. You spoke about newsletter. What's your opinion on blogs on websites? Blogs are in a really weird transition phase right now because of how search is changing to actually generative AI. So right now, if you are going to invest in a blog, it depends. If it's for awareness and visibility, you're going to want to actually optimize it to generative AI, which is a whole different style than what is the traditional advice out there for optimizing it to search engine optimization. If you're using it as a nurturing and it's a support and you're going to send people from your other channels, then you don't need to worry about hitting the awareness piece and you just need to worry about helping people understand how you can help them better. So it really depends where it falls into your strategy, essentially. What if your location is virtual as you are an experienced business and use event venues? Your location. So are you using brick and mortar event venues? Is it just the business itself is virtual, but you're using physical event venues? No one downloads PDFs. Yes. Okay. So if you're using physical event venues, you still have an opportunity to connect with people physically in the environment, in the community. You can Google My Business without having to put in your specific address. So I actually have a Google My Business. I don't have an office. I work from home. My home address is not listed, but I am listed as a business in my community. So you can hit both of those where it's okay to be virtual without having an actual home base brick and mortar, as long as you're serving the physical community and you're engaging with the community out in the physical world, you want to tap into that Google My Business. So the format delivery for your lead magnet Depends on your audience. For me, my lead magnet is, or it's going to be micro training, because market what you sell, market how you sell. If you are selling people training, give a bite-sized version of whatever it is that you want to find people who are a fit for, right? The point of a lead magnet is to qualify and to help people who will be interested in what you offer to move forward with you. So it depends on what you're offering. What is your primary solution and what is the format of that? And then replicate that in your lead magnet. In an ideal world, you'd actually know what your target audience prefers to digest. This is why I do video, why I do these type of things, and why I do live, because I like it, my target audience likes it. And so you want to replicate that as much as possible with your lead magnet. As long as your lead magnet, the goal is to get people to actually engage and to absorb what you're offering. The more you have it attuned again to the type of format they want, the more impactful and effective that will be for you. Fine. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else? I love this. I love this topic. It is such a key thing. Like I'm saying, when you get this locked in, you can build businesses without having to completely be on social media constantly, but you can still bring in very significant results. You're welcome, Tez. Yay! I'm glad you guys found a lot of value out of it. Most of you know where to find me. I'm going to give a follow-up email with, yeah, social media. It's one of those things. We can get caught up in so many traps on it, and we don't need it. We don't need to get caught up in it. It's a waste of our time, especially as business owners. Our time is better spent elsewhere. Get it locked in, do it consistently, and you can bring in really, really large results for your business and still save your sanity for the other more important things to focus on. Okay, I'll shut it down. I will send up a follow-up email with the recording and the prompts and all kinds of pieces. So have a great week. Bye-bye.